Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, listeners, to episode 189 of the Ad Nauseam podcast. My name is Dr. Jeff Winkle. I'm down here in the central bunker, Parnassus.
What?
Isn't that what we were calling it?
Something like the vomitorium.
The vomitorium, right. But the central bunker.
Okay.
The Mount Parnassus.
We've moved around, right?
We have, exactly.
The migratory podcast.
Right. I think we're settled here now.
I think for a while.
I feel we got a permanent home.
Yeah, unless the owner of this place sells it out underneath us.
Man, I can just see something like that happening.
I'm the owner.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So what does the T stand for in
the
Jeffrey
T?
T. Winkle?
Let's see. Man, I'm never ready for these questions.
Turbulent.
That's what I'm feeling tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'll take turbulent. Jeffrey Turbulent Winkle. And I'm sitting across the table from my good friend and excellent co-host, David C. Noe. Before you even say anything, how you're doing, what's that C stand for?
I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Cooling my heels.
Cooling your heels.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right.
Because it's blisteringly warm outside here in Michigan. In the 90s, we're headed for some record temperatures, but down here in the vomitorium, cooling my heels. And Jeff,
yeah,
you're doing well?
I'm doing well.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm eager for the semester to get going, but
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I am. So I'm becoming kind of my restless, annoying self at home.
Yes, I bet.
And my wife is saying, I really want you to get back to work.
No amount of coffee is going to calm you down, cool you out. Did you finish all the summer reading you had stacked up? The true crime, the real history,
I am almost. I just started a really interesting book last night called The Fate of the Apostles.
The Fate of the Apostles.
And this is a book that kind of goes through all of the literary, legendary, and archaeological evidence for what happened to the 12.
Where they are and how they died.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Yep.
So it probably deals with Gnostic accounts.
Early accounts, seeing them through the filter of the Acts of the Apostles, archaeological evidence. I just started and it looks really interesting.
Huh. Did Thomas go to India is what I want to know.
That's covered, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So it talks.
Do you remember the author?
Yeah, it's a Sean McDowell.
Okay.
So it's an apologetic text. So Sean is the son of probably the better known Josh McDowell.
Oh, yeah, sure. I know that guy.
Evidence demands a verdict.
That's correct. And one of the books I read as a kid.
Right. So Sean's kind of thesis is that he talks about how one of the kind of standard apologetic cards that's played is that if the story of the resurrection is false, why did all of these men who witnessed it willingly go to their deaths over it?
Correct.
Right.
And undergo this apparently, now critics would say this is circular. I don't buy it, but undergo this apparently dramatic change in their character from, cowering, terrified individuals to extremely bold and, world-defying.
Right.
Good question. I'll be interested to hear, Jeff, when you finish it up.
Yeah.
Whether it has the academic chops that a person of your education and training would look for. Because I'll tell you, Mr. McDowell, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say right offhand that someone without advanced training can't write a deep, well-researched book.
Right.
Because I believe they can, and I've read some of those. Yeah. It is harder, though.
Yes.
So this is what I'm going to be interested in hearing.
Exactly. Well, I have to admit that I saw the title and I read the synopsis. I thought this sounds really interesting. And I do have to admit that when I saw that it was that Sean McDowell was the son of John, it gave me pause. Right. I'm always skeptical of the popularizers, right?
And like you and me.
Yeah. But both of us. We're attempting popularization, but we're credentialed.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
And Sean McDowell is definitely credentialed, and the book is very footnotey.
Okay,
right.
Well, maybe we could do an episode on it at some point.
That would be really interesting. Yeah. So how about you? How are you doing?
Well, I haven't been sleeping well lately.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can tell by the tone of my voice. This is the setup for something brief and stupid.
Yes.
I haven't been sleeping well.
I'm sorry to hear
lately.
that.
And a lot of people recommend, different kinds of strategies to get to sleep.
Yeah.
A lot of people use this where they they play something in the background.
Yeah, like a fan. Right?
Yeah,
You put a fan on. Yeah,
you know what they call that?
Yeah, dude, it's white noise.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Well, I've always been a little uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. Does it sound too racial?
A little bit, because frankly, I don't hear color. So it seems a little misnamed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it never
right.
really worked for me.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. So, I feel for you, man.
Yeah.
Right. So
Tossing, turning.
you wouldn't put on a fan just because that would just make you kind of
it has a certain
sociologically uncomfortable.
maybe some kinds of connotations. I don't know.
Right.
Should I really be doing that? I'm not sure, but
I don't know.
we'll make it through. So,
have you ever heard? Okay, this is an unnecessary tangent,
of course.
But of course, the late great Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, sure.
Right, and once he started, playing, everyone wanted to copy him.
Oh, yeah.
And what a lot of guitarists were after was his tone.
Oh,
Do you know what he called his tone?
No, I don't.
The brown sound.
The brown sound.
Yes, everybody was after the brown sound.
I don't get that.
Well, I don't know where that. I don't know. It's just a little kind of yeah, kind of
fuzzy.
fuzzy.
Colors have connotations, right?
Right, exactly.
White is kind of stark, and purple can be a little nauseating.
Right.
Brown is sort of fuzzy, warm, rough around the edges.
I think so. I think that's what he was going for. Yeah.
All
but,
right. So
but again, like you,
yeah.
I say I love his tone, but I don't hear color.
That's right. I don't hear color. What's the color of this podcast in its tone?
That's a good question.
Thanks. Maybe we'll leave that
Chartreuse?
on the burner.
Yeah.
We have a shout out.
Yes, take us into it, Dave. Would you?
So this is from one Byron Snellings, and wow, this is incredible. Mm-hmm. He says, "My name is Byron Snellings. I am an avid listener to Ad Nauseam." He had me right there, Jeff.
Yep.
I started listening in January of this year, 2025. I'm wondering, Byron, what took you so long?
Yeah, where have you been?
4 years.
Seriously.
And I'm currently making my way through the catalog.
All right.
It's like Iliad Book 2. Listening to you all gorge on the classics helps me get through my workdays of cutting stone.
Oh, man. He's a stone
Byron's
cutter.
a stone cutter.
Wow.
That's right.
Man, that's fantastic.
Like that great episode with Patrick Stewart. Homer joins the
stone cutters, like the Masons,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
As well as while I am on long runs. I enjoy taking in the classics during my free time. I am also a happy student of Dr. Noe's Moss method.
Fantastic.
Now, maybe, Jeff, you should read this part because, it's kind of self-congratulatory.
Yeah, sure. Right, so Byron continues. My favorite thing I've heard him, Dr. Noe, say in his lectures has been, if you don't know what construing means, well, God has blessed you with the internet so you can go and look that up.
Does that sound like me?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
Dr. Noe is our modern-day Cicero. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that's over the top. I had to pay him to say that.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. I look forward to starting his LLPSI for my own edifications, also to help my children when they begin their classical conversations.
There we go.
Fantastic.
And then he writes, please enjoy the attached photo.
Mm-hmm.
So he sent us this incredible photo where he is gripping the Moss Method mug, right?
Yep.
Moss Method for Greek. And it's in front of a headstone that he has carved, right? And he has cut. This is old-fashioned stone cutting that he does. And Jeff, can you read the inscription?
The inscription says, "Death by chocolate."
Yeah. Some clever individual wanted this to go, or their family member wanted this to go on their tombstone.
That is great.
Yeah.
Wow.
What would you put on yours?
Oh, man. I would say something about liminality.
Yeah, no doubt.
How about you?
Well, I won't put this one, but it's the old funny one. Old classicists never die, right?
Yes.
They just keep declining.
Yeah, not bad.
No, I'm gonna have Greek and Latin and maybe some Hebrew on my tombstone.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
That seems only
sure.
apt.
If people come and visit me right in the cemetery, I want them to do a little work, right? Right. Don't come here and lounge around.
Exactly.
Come on, pull your own weight.
Exactly.
I'm here resting, but you should
That's right. If you can't figure it out, that's why Google's here, right?
Exactly. So where are we headed today, Jeff?
We are in part 2 of 2, looking at R.E. Wycherley's book, How the Greeks Built Cities.
All right.
Right. So last time we got in a few chapters, and we're going to do our best to give due diligence to the rest of the book today.
That's correct. So Wycherley wrote his book in 1962, W.W. Norton and Company. He's the author of such other works as The Stones of Athens, The Agora of Athens, and Athenian Agora Part 3, Literary and Epigraphical Testimonia from 1957.
You just couldn't get out of that Agora.
Yeah, it's like the Jurassic Park Part 8, right? The Athenian Agora Part 3.
Yeah, I'd watch that movie.
Socrates Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So we're going to start out with chapter 4, and we have chapters 4 through 8 to make our way through.
Yes, right. So we'll do our best. And I think, as we talked about last time when we were doing this, we can't hit every little jot of the book, but we're going to try to highlight what we take to be Wycherley's kind of key arguments and examples.
Yep. So you're saying Wycherley.
Wycherley.
Last time you said Wycherley.
What is it?
I said Wycherley. I don't know. Okay. We're up to 3. Let's see if we can do 4 or 5 more pronunciation.
All right.
We can't hit every stone.
No.
Because that will leave the listener in the same position as our student at Eleusis in 2011, who very famously said, "If I see another old stone, I'm going to puke."
I'm going to puke. Exactly.
Right.
So we want to try, we're again,
Go
as
easy.
we've said a lot, we're trying to take in the classics and
keeping them
down. Right.
So
no
that's
puking.
That's the inspiration right there for Ad Nauseam.
Yes.
So what's in chapter 4?
Chapter 4 is dedicated, probably, I would guess, to Mr. Wycherley's favorite, the agora, as the kind of the central public space that you see in the vast majority of some sort in Greek cities that have been excavated.
That's right, and that's the civic center, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
that's the hub where things happen. Now, I don't know. It's surprising to me that there are no online social media fora that go by the name the agora, because maybe one was started and then it was a false start, but all the online places where people meet, like Twitter, X, Facebook, whatever, nothing really has the cachet of the agora. They're all going for that.
Yes,
right.
This sounds like a missed opportunity, or one waiting to be taken.
Right. Yeah. So what does Wycherley say?
Let's start at the beginning of this chapter. He writes, according to Herodotus, Cyrus, king of Persia, said of the Greeks, "I never yet feared the kind of men who have a place set apart in the middle of the city, in which they get together and tell one another lies under oath."
Now, I wonder if Cyrus ever said that, but Herodotus, putting those words into his mouth, or maybe catching some Persian gossip, he does really encapsulate, I guess, what an autocrat, a great man like Cyrus, right?
Yes.
A totalitarian, what he would think of the Greeks.
Right.
They go down into their agora, they take oaths, and then they tell each other these extravagant lies.
Yeah.
He'd cut right through that,
yes,
right?
Indeed. Exactly. Right.
Bulldoze it.
Right. And also kind of deeply suspicious of people talking freely to one another, right?
Yes.
Right. Let me continue here a little bit. So, like other despots, he had a misplaced contempt for freer institutions. But at least he had sufficient insight into Greek life to regard the agora as particularly characteristic of the people.
Can I just pause you there for a second?
Yeah.
Why would Wycherley say a misplaced contempt for freer institutions? So I understand that despots, they don't like free institutions because it's in competition with their despotism.
Yes.
Why would he say it's a misplaced contempt?
I think he's coming from kind of the assumption that a democratic institution is invariably better than an autocratic one.
Yeah.
Are you seeing something different there?
No, I'm just wondering, because I don't really understand that adjective, a misplaced contempt.
I think he's just saying, well, Cyrus he's wrong.
Oh, okay.
About the agora.
All right.
And maybe this is Wycherley's also saying is that maybe they were lying to each other sometimes, but that's not all that went on there.
Sure.
I don't know.
Just as a sidebar, if someone's looking to read some Pomo philosophy,
yes,
Stanley Fish wrote a book called Why There's No Such Thing as Free Speech.
Yeah.
And why that's a good thing.
Why it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's what he said. I read it.
And was it good?
Unpersuaded.
Really?
But some excellent arguments.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I thought, well, he's probably right, but I want to keep my free speech. Anyway, so the agora is where, according to Cyrus, people go down, men go down, take oaths, and then tell each other lies in terms of court cases and the direction of the city and so forth. But the word agora, to continue Wycherley, is quite untranslatable, since it stands for something as peculiarly Hellenic as polis or sophrosune. One may doubt whether the public places of any other cities have ever seen such an intense and sustained concentration of varied activities. Now, as we go on, Wycherley is going to detail these activities for us and tell us how the architecture and construction of the agora favored and promoted those. But what does he say about its origin?
He writes, like the city as a whole, it began in a simple way. A fairly level open space was all that was needed. A good water supply was important and satisfactory drainage. A roughly central site was adopted if possible. Since the agora had to provide a convenient focus for city life, in general, and for the main streets which meandered through the residential quarters and radiated onward through the country outside. The early dominance of the Acropolis, which we talked about last time, naturally affected the position of the agora, but in time, as we have seen, the emphasis was reversed, and the Acropolis was now an appendage of the city, the agora its true center, which held the whole structure together.
Okay.
So I think, just for the sake of, reiterating some important points, we talked a bit last time about how we see this, generally speaking, this move is that the Acropolis begins as kind of a stronghold where the king has his palace.
Gravity is our friend,
right,
remember?
Exactly, amongst other things. But then over time, the Acropolis makes this shift to becoming more purely a religious center.
Yeah.
And the king lives elsewhere, and the politics of the site kind of move down into the agora.
Yes, or the Pnyx or wherever it may be.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of centrifugal sort of impulse.
Yes, right.
And so the downtown, people flee the downtown, you might say, and it ends up being more like a place where you interact with the gods and maybe you discuss interesting ideas, but the real activity of the state is elsewhere.
Right, exactly.
Now, the place where I grew up, east of here, Belding in Ionia County, used to have an old main street like many of the towns in the United States that were established in the mid-19th century.
Yeah. So
a narrow two-track, paved, big brick buildings on both sides.
Yes.
Tiny little shops, one after another. Very charming, right? Like a Norman Rockwell painting, or maybe even a Thomas Kincaid.
Yeah.
But at some point, maybe that's how Jennison was. But at some point, what they did is they bulldozed all that, and they built something called the Covered Village, which was a 1970s mega mall.
Oh my goodness!
So they enclosed the whole thing, and they tried to recreate it, and the place is absolutely desolate.
Is it like abandoned? Like
yes,
abandoned?
It's never been fully occupied.
Oh my goodness!
And shops move in and out of that.
Right.
And so it's always been to me an interesting question: what do people really want, and why did it end up that way?
Yeah.
And now, what I previously described as what would be the equivalent of the agora, right? A downtown, a center street, has really inspired a lot of nostalgia in people, and they go for that.
Right. I think, again, we mentioned it last time, is there's a lot of this, a lot, who knows? You see it kind of bandied about online. There's kind of this longing for walkable cities,
correct?
Right, where you can do all your shopping, your working, your playing, your engaging with your civic duties all within an easy walking distance.
Right.
And the lament is that in America in particular it was built for cars.
Yeah, urban sprawl.
Not for pedestrians.
Right.
But I think that all of those questions, those longings, those arguments, those irritations come back to kind of this notion that the Greeks really, for all intents and purposes, invented.
Exactly.
Right? The agora is a central place, not just for selling and buying goods, but for all of civic life.
Right.
Yeah.
And the architecture reflects that. So that Aristotle famously says the size of a democracy is limited to the space that will hold all of the voting citizens.
Yeah.
If you can't assemble them all together in one spot, then that's too large to make a democracy.
Yes.
So now we have the potential to vote virtually, right?
Right.
So the size of a democracy is therefore virtually infinite, right?
Right.
What's the limitation?
Yeah.
So at the top of page 57, Wycherley addresses this very point. He says, it was difficult for the agora, embedded in the middle, to expand with the growth of the city. So if you, in other words, set out your agora and you measure it out and it's too small, as the city gets larger, unless you live right next to it, right next to the agora, your ability to participate in civic life is ever diminishing.
Right.
You're not going to drive in with your Toyota Camry from 30 miles outside of the Athenian agora to listen to a speech of Pericles.
Right.
But if you're right next door, no big deal.
Right. I mean, I think a response, kind of response to that is, later on in the 2nd century, Hadrian comes in and in Athens builds a second agora.
That's right.
It expands the whole business, right?
And throws up that arch and says, on this side, right, is the Athens of Theseus. On this side is the Athens of Hadrian.
Yes, exactly.
For sure.
Exactly. I want to explore just a little bit further this notion of what is the modern day or American equivalent of the agora, right?
Yeah.
There is kind of a Norman Rockwell kind of cliche about the town square,
right?
But you asked me, you said maybe Jennison was like that,
right?
And Jennison didn't really even have a main street.
Yeah, people were too busy working to ever get together and chat.
Right. But even the main street with the brick buildings on either side is kind of a down-home American equivalent.
Yes, it is.
Jenison, to this day, it's just you've got your Meijer grocery store.
It's because the people in Jenison were from a particular ethnic subculture.
Yeah.
They hadn't been fully integrated. And then they missed that, right?
Right.
They missed that build the downtown with a hardware store next to the candy shop, next to the soda fountain, and so forth.
But even thinking about larger cities or a larger city where I've lived in Chicago, and you don't really have those. There's not like
Millennium Park, maybe.
I guess so,
the Navy
or
Pier.
the park along the shore,
right?
But in terms of like multi-use for in a way that the Athenian agora function,
right?
No, nothing. Or New York City, Central Park.
Oh yeah,
is a kind of
it's
agora.
massive, right?
It's massive. But I think it only serves a small percentage of the functions that the ancient agora was designed to do. So
none of these places, neither Chicago nor New York, or maybe even the small towns we grew up in, would be conceived of by the Greeks as an actual polis.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Because there's no unity of purpose or thought.
Right.
Though the Greeks were constantly fighting, right? They identified themselves primarily as, I'm an Athenian.
Yes.
And that means I go to the agora and let people know, right, what I think about everything.
Right.
I don't care what Cyrus thinks.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right. He can get his own cappuccino. So on page 57, Wycherley again, quote, architecturally, the growth of the agora meant more and better buildings. The council house, the prytaneion, offices for individual magistrates and boards, record offices, and so forth were naturally placed in, or at least very near, the agora, unless some local tradition kept them rooted on the Acropolis or placed them elsewhere. The stoa, or open colonnade, with or without appendages, was found to be a useful general-purpose building and became especially characteristic of the agora. As the cults of the city multiplied and grew, the agora received a large share of altars and temples, and rivaled or surpassed the Acropolis in the number and variety of its cults, if not in venerability. So worship spread, in other words.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's so interesting. Having just a little over a month ago, I was in the Athenian agora, and you see remnants.
Is that a flex? Is that what we call that?
Yeah, it's a humble brag.
There you
maybe,
go.
Right? Oh yeah, I happened to be wandering through. But I mean, you see it everywhere. The mix of government buildings. Up on the hill you have the temple of Hephaestus, or the Theseon, as it's sometimes called. You have the foundations of altars everywhere. You have the remnants of a Roman Odeon in the very center, and then ringed on at least three sides by stoa.
Yeah. Which is an amazing. It's an amazing architectural idea. The stoa.
Yeah.
We're going to talk more about it later. It means porch, right?
Yeah.
But it's colonnade. And the Stoa of Attalus, the very famous one in the Athenian agora, such an amazing, impressive building.
It is.
It's one of my favorite places to be in the world thus far.
Yeah.
Just the nice, cool marble, and the way that there's statuary, and there would have been shops in the back.
Yeah.
And the one in Corinth, I don't know if it's 100 meters, something like that.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's unbelievable, the size of these particular institutions. But I'm thinking about, the way that Rome is designed, right? And the famous story, you probably know the details better than I do, about how there was the forum of Diocletian that was cut through, or the forum of Trajan, so that Mussolini could have a view of the Colosseum.
Trajan, yes, exactly.
So he just demolished, right? He bulldozed the forum of Trajan.
He did. I mean, to a certain degree. Most of it has been recovered. One of my grad school mentors was the lead archaeologist at the Forum of Trajan. Oh, and so he worked at. So it was one of those things where Mussolini, to kind of create that boulevard of the view of the Colosseum for propaganda purposes.
That goes basically from the Vittorio Emanuele monument, right,
to the Colosseum. Right. But at the same time, if we can thank Mussolini for anything, he also poured a bunch of money into excavating and preserving a lot of those sites that are there.
Okay.
And a lot of that, when Mussolini was doing his thing, was all kind of ramshackle tenement housing.
Yeah.
And he just said, get out of the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that, to my mind, is resonant with what Wycherley is saying, because if you want to expand government function or civic function, which are not the same thing, but oftentimes they're pretty similar, and the agora has a set size, you can only do that by tearing things down.
Right.
And so think about Florence. The museum that houses all of the wonders of Florentine Renaissance is the Uffizi,
Yes.
right? Which means the offices. So that massive building was originally the administrative center for everything the Medici did,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Now Florence is part of the Italian state, so I don't know what, if any, kind of administrative business takes place in Florence at all. It's all in Rome or Milan or I don't know, the Cayman Islands or something.
Yeah.
And so now that building, which would be like a civic center, is just a museum.
Right. Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and the way that, of course, that building is set up too. It also has kind of an outdoor courtyard and agora between the wings of that building too, right?
But in terms of what was in the agora,
Yeah.
right? What were some of the common buildings?
Sure. Wycherley writes, the stoas and temples dominated the agora. To complete the picture, one has to imagine a variety of minor monuments grouped like the larger buildings, irregularly but not necessarily inartistically. A fountain house, not merely a decorative fountain, was often an important element. Statues of gods, heroes, and men were set up in front of the buildings and along the streets which led into and through the area. Trees were planted to provide shade in addition to that of the stoas. Paving was confined to limited areas until late.
Well, that's interesting.
Yep.
I guess because of cost?
I guess,
Maybe
yeah.
the paving?
Right. I think that Wycherley makes this point throughout this book, is that a lot of the popular imagination that we have about these places of being marble clad from north to south and east to west.
Right.
A lot of that
late.
that really ornate stuff is very late.
Yeah, it's either Roman or after reconstructed.
Yes. Yeah.
So we recently had some short digression. We
Yeah.
recently had some sidewalk fixed.
Yes.
And it was nice because we had been waiting quite a while. But we have a listener who actually has some political connections here in the city of Grand Rapids.
Okay.
And when this listener's family member was elected the mayor of Grand Rapids,
Yes.
I emailed this individual the very next day and congratulated him and said, and now could you get your dad to come out here and fix the sidewalk?
And Dad complied?
Eventually.
Okay, gotcha.
I hope that this individual never passed it along to the mayor of Grand Rapids because it was completely tongue-in-cheek.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, Dave, we got to move on to our next topic fairly soon. But what does Wycherley have to say about what was life like in the
Right.
Agora? Yeah.
So still this same chapter 4, this would be page 70. He says, quote, "The archaeological remains," meaning of the Agora, "are the dry and dusty bones of the Agora. To clothe them with flesh and blood, one must say a little more about its varied life, of which literature tells us a great deal, especially at Athens. The part played by the Agora in politics should be clear by now, and something more will be said of it in dealing with the council house," that's the Bouloterion, "and other elements. Magistrates multiplied in a great city like Athens, and most of them had quarters in the Agora. A whole area in the southwest was called the offices." So that's very much like Florence's Uffizi,
Yes.
right? "Politics was closely bound up with the law courts. The Athenian legal system was very remarkable. Strange ancient courts sat in strange places," says Pausanias, Book 1. "But the great democratic court, the Heliaia, had its seat in the Agora, and we read in Demosthenes how the Areopagus sat in the royal stoa, roped off to keep unruly crowds away. From the beginning, the Agora had been associated with the administration of justice. Already in Homer, we see a case being tried in the presence of the people in the Agora." This is Iliad Book 18 and Odyssey 12. "Though it must be remembered that by agora, Homer often means simply the assembly."
Yes.
So to pause for a minute, the verb agoreo means to call an assembly.
Yes.
And there's this word, I believe, in Iliad 1, something like agorende, which means to go agora-ward, right? To be headed in the agora direction.
Right.
So it just means to get people together and to speak in public.
Yes.
And so I guess this was the center of politics.
Right. And this also germane into I think in our next episode we're going to be talking about Plato's Apology, which is a transcript of the trial of Socrates, which took place right down there in the Athenian Agora.
Yep. What about, Jeff, thank you, what about on that same page a little further down, the commerce that took place in this Agora?
Sure. Wycherley continues, "No clear line was drawn between civic center and market. The public buildings and shrines were in the Agora. Meat and fish and the rest were sold in the same agora. And agorazein means to go to market, to buy. though also occasionally to stroll about the agora. I imagine there's lots of strolling about.
Oh yeah. You can't buy if you don't stroll.
You got to stroll.
Right. Do you enjoy shopping?
No. I enjoy targeted shopping.
Well, this is the great thing about online shopping.
Yes.
It's like strolling, but you're not using all your senses.
That's true. Right. Yeah. So for me, depending if it's a a bookstore or a guitar shop, yeah, I'll do lots of strolling around.
Or if you're in Plaka.
Or Plaka, of course.
Right. If you're somewhere where you can walk and eat and smell and dodge and so forth.
Yes.
That's fun.
That's fun. But if for some reason, my shopping necessitates a trip to the mall,
yeah,
I'm going to be as direct and targeted as possible.
You know why?
What?
It's because it's indoors.
Is that why?
Maybe that's why. If you're outside, there's just something better about it.
So Belding made the exact wrong move by covering that all up.
That's correct.
Gotcha.
Same page. Marketing, when the agora was full, i.e. in the morning, must have been, says Wycherley, a noisy and nerve-wracking business with much haggling. Mm-hmm. The fishmongers had a particularly bad reputation. Don't get me started on the fishmongers. According to the comic poets, they used the Greek equivalent of Billingsgate, glared at their customers like gorgons, asked exorbitant prices with a take-it-or-leave-it air, and faked rotten fish.
What?
This fish is rotten. Most cities had officials called agoranomoi to exercise control and ensure fair dealing. Athens had, in addition, corn inspectors for a particularly vital trade and inspectors of weights and measurements. Mm-hmm. We read in inscriptions of the agoranomoi, seeing that the agora and streets are kept clean and tidy, and watching relations between employers and employed.
Man, what was going on with those fishmongers?
I don't know.
Why were they so bad?
They're giving you the stink eye, maybe?
I guess so. Maybe.
Well, because you want to say, well, it's fresh, even though it was caught many weeks ago, and
right.
There's no refrigeration.
Right, exactly. So probably those guys went home, stinking of fish, couldn't get it off. Their wives are complaining.
You think that's it? You're going to blame it on the women?
No, I'm not blaming it on the women at all. I sympathize with the women. Having to live with these stinky guys. But I think they internalized it and then took it out on their customers.
Maybe that guy that we rode the Green Line with from Athens down to Piraeus. You remember? Maybe he was actually a fishmonger.
You mean the body odor that was melting?
I don't know. But let's move on. We got to wrap up the agora here. We're on page 90 and a mention of your buddy Hadrian.
Hadrian, yes. So what about Hadrian? What's happening in the second century here in the agora?
Yeah, well, like you were saying, right, the basic structure was put in place by Hippodamus, right? But then later on, Roman emperors and many others developed this. And to a great height, so that it's something like what people generally perceive of as the structure of an Athenian city.
Yes, indeed.
And again, on page 90, 89, Wycherley details this for us.
Right. He writes, the 2nd century AD saw a vigorous outburst of building activity, marked not only by the more complete enclosure of large open areas, but also by the excessive and functionless architectural elaboration which had become popular by that time. Functionless. Right?
Interesting.
The South Agora was converted into a regular peristyle and provided with a magnificent gateway at the northeast. Near this, facing the council house, was built the Navseam, a super fountain house. The Agora area of Miletus attained its greatest magnificence in the age of Hadrian, but adaptation to prevailing fashions tended to destroy the openness, spaciousness, and simplicity of the stoas, and to impair the character of the site as an agora.
Interesting.
So kind of a more is more philosophy.
Correct.
Let's flood it with ornamentation.
Right.
Takes away from
less function.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the twilight of the agora, kind of.
Yeah.
And here it is in Miletus, right, which is in southern Asia Minor, right, modern day Turkey. It's a long way from Athens. It's even further from Rome, of course.
Right.
But Hadrian is spreading his view of what Greek architecture is all over the place.
Exactly. Speaking of spreading things all over the place,
yes,
it's time for the ads.
Let's do it. This episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by the good folks at Ratio Coffee, our friend, the magnificent entrepreneur Mark Helweg, Portland fellow now living down in Central Texas, decided about 10, 12 years ago when he was running Clive Coffee, he decided he would try to improve individuals' home coffee game.
Yeah.
He asked the important question, why has the countertop coffee brewer not changed much in the last 50 years?
Yes.
He said, I can solve that problem, and he did by inventing the Ratio
The ratio, well, I mean, pick one, right? The ratio 8?
8,
yes.
Yeah, the flagship, which, did you brew with the 8 this morning?
Every morning.
Okay.
Yes.
And tell us about that experience, please.
I had the grounds ready to go. I filled the water tank. I hit the button.
Right.
The one button.
Yes.
And then I get my three stages. I got the bloom.
Right.
Where you have the off-gassing. I have the brew.
Right.
Which is where the magic happens. And then simply ready.
Yeah. So the 3 stages, is that Mo, Larry, and Curly?
If you want to call it that.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So it blooms.
Yes.
And that's where some very hot water goes down into the grounds. And does something off gas?
Yes, all that nasty CO2, which you do not want near your coffee.
You'd like it trapped in a bottle of Coke Zero, maybe.
Yeah, there we
Diet
go.
Coke, but you don't want it mixing into your coffee.
No.
And then after the bloom stage, you've got the...
You got the brew.
Okay.
And that's where the water is going through the Fibonacci head, right?
Oh, right.
And going through the grounds.
Right.
Into the carafe.
Who was Fibonacci in?
He had some kind of sequence, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, exactly.
He was an Italian mathematician or engineer, maybe?
Something like that,
He figured out that if you put a shower head in a coffee machine, you can then sell it on a podcast.
Yes, exactly.
I
right.
think that's his claim to fame.
Exactly. Like 500 years ago.
Exactly.
It's amazing, right? Yeah.
And then what's the final stage?
The final stage is it's simply ready.
Right.
They're really, in some ways, there's only 2 stages. It's that simple.
It's
Bloom
incredible.
And brew, and then it's ready to go.
Right. The 3rd stage is stasis.
Yes. Yes.
So let's say that an individual wants to be like you, Jeff, with your 8, or maybe like me with the 4, which is a sleek, agile machine, brews up to 20 ounces. It's got a variable function. You can do a half brew. You can do a full view.
Yes.
What should the listener do?
Well, they should go to ratiocoffee.com/ad nauseam.
Okay.
And that will get them a wonderful discount.
Do they have to enter a coupon?
I believe they enter this coupon code, AN ratio, that's ANRATIO 2025.
Okay.
And that will get them $20 off their entire order.
Okay. That's all they got to do.
That's all they got to do.
All right.
Very
check it
simple.
out.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is also brought to you by the wonderful people at Hackett Publishing. Hackett Publishing is one of these rare institutions that is, like this podcast is attempting to do, is to keep the flame alive and get the classics out there to a popular audience.
Right.
I love these guys. Dave loves these guys. They've been with us since nearly the very beginning.
That's
of
right.
This podcast, going up on 5 years now.
That's correct. On our recent colloquium, we were reading Augustine's De Magistro, The Teacher. Hackett has an excellent translation of Augustine's The Teacher, combined with his work Contra Academicos, Against the Academics.
Yes.
It's a thin paperback, which makes it quite affordable, but it's not cheap in the sense that it's poorly put together, poorly manufactured, sloppy scholarship, none of that. This is top drawer kind of material.
Exactly. And that's what Hackett is famous for. They can thread that needle between high quality and affordability in a way that I don't think any other publisher can. The cost of textbooks, of academic tomes out there is ridiculous.
Yes.
But go to hackettpublishing.com, listener. Do yourself a favor and scroll through their immense catalog. And if you want to build your library, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this podcast with any interest, you want to build your own personal library.
That's right.
Check out their offerings. I mean, they have translations, they have monographs. Yes, many things from the classics, but from all different corners of history and religion and philosophy. You're going to love what you see.
Yes, I want to mention to the listener something exciting coming up. This coming September, Hackett is releasing a major new work in philosophy, Aristotle, The Complete Works, edited by CDC Reeve and Pavlos Kontos. And to celebrate this release, Hackett is planning several book giveaway contests.
Fantastic.
Aristotle Complete Works is the first collection of a new English language translation of the Aristotelian corpus, the first one since 1954.
Wow.
It aims for consistent translation of key terms across the works, a beautifully produced 2-volume cloth-bound set, boxed or unboxed with Smith-sewn bindings. I don't really know what a Smith-sewn binding
Sounds
is.
impressive.
I'm glad that Smith is doing the sewing. It includes a general introduction by Christoph Ropp, catalogs of Aristotle's writings, an annotated index of people and places, and an extensive annotated glossary of terms.
Man.
So they're not sparing any expense, but the final product is not going to break the bank.
Yeah.
And we will be giving away one set of those on the air to a lucky listener.
Fantastic. I can't wait for that. Yeah.
So, Jeff, if the listener wants to support this podcast and score for themselves some excellent classical literature, what should they do?
Well, they should go to hackettpublishing.com. That's HACKETT publishing.com. And the first thing you'll notice is how affordable the books are on there. But if you use this coupon code, AN2025 for your order, it becomes even more affordable.
Okay, but why that number, 2025?
Well, you got AN, which stands for ad nauseum, and then 2025 is the current year.
Right. Yep. Of course.
And Dave, that will get them two amazing things. What are they?
Yes, I think it's 1% off the entire order.
Dave.
Is that not right?
20%.
20% off.
Yes.
That's almost 1/5.
It is.
That's incredible.
Nearly, yes.
But then they get you back on shipping, right? They double or treble it.
You would think so.
Yeah.
But no, so it's 20% off and free shipping.
On the entire order?
Everything.
Check it out. This episode is also brought to you by a relatively new sponsor, our good friend Della Chelpka. Are you ready for art that truly speaks to your story? Jeff, are you?
I am, always.
Okay. Meet Della, a Tucson-based oil painter who captures the people, places, and moments that you cherish with breathtaking detail. I kind of wonder, Jeff, does Tucson have an agora? If people go down there and crack eggs and cook them on the sidewalk or something?
Maybe there's some central place in the middle of the University of Arizona down there, but I don't know. I'm not aware of an
It's got to be
agora.
blazing hot.
Yes.
Yeah. Della's showcased her work in multiple galleries, illustrated books, and is often commissioned for standout projects. See her current works for sale at her website. Jeff, what's that website?
That website is dellachelpka.art. That's DELLACHELPKA.art.
To find your inspiration, thank you, Jeff, visit that website and use the coupon code APPLES?
Not apples, Apelles.
Oh, Apelles.
Yes.
Apelles. Who is that and why are we using that code?
Probably the most famous painter from Greco-Roman antiquity.
Interesting. Yes. And if you use the coupon code APELLES, Apelles, what do you get?
You get your official ad nauseum discount of 10% off your entire order.
Wow, check that out. Okay, Jeff, so we're ramping back up now, and we're moving on to Chapter 5 of Wycherley's famous book called Shrines and Official Buildings.
Yes.
Now, where's the payoff here? What interests us?
Well, we're going to look at, he's already talked about in the Agora chapter about how in the Agora you're going to find probably even more altars and temples and sacred places than you would even find on the Acropolis.
Exactly.
So we're looking at kind of where do shrines kind of figure into the larger kind of architectural picture of a Greek city.
Just like St. Paul in Acts chapter 17, he's wandering all over the city, not just the Acropolis, but the Agora and Marsil. And he says this place is stuffed with deities and shrines and altars. And he says they are, I think the word is something like desidemonias. You're tremendously superstitious, or he could be saying you're very religious.
Right. All right, Dave, let's get into this chapter.
Sure.
Let's start. This is the second full paragraph in chapter 5. Wycherley writes, first of all, one should remember there is no clear line between religious and secular in Greek architecture any more than in Greek life. The whole city, indeed the whole land, was sacred to the gods or to some deity in particular. Athens to Athena, Argos to Hera, and so on. The relation could be expressed in various ways. The god watched over the city belonged to the god. In a sense, it was his shrine and dedicated to him. The Acropolis had its special sanctity, and so had the Agora. The streets were lined with Hermes in particular, and at Athens his pillar-like images stood about them in large numbers. The walls had not the rigid sanctity of the Latin pomerium, the outer strip of the city, as we have seen. They formed a looser frame. But other strips of land might be similarly forbidden to human habitation. Stoas and other public buildings were dedicated to the gods and contained cults with altars and statues. So the gods were everywhere.
Yes.
Right?
And the whole city was their possession.
Right. And as I stress in my myth classes that there's no separation of temple and state.
Right.
Everything that the Greeks did, especially everything public that they did, had some kind of religious sheen or center to it.
Yeah. It's very fascinating. It's quite different than how we conceive of things today, I would say. So what made a spot sacred? Well, on this same page, Wycherley answers that question. He says, physical features excited veneration. Caves, groves, hilltops, springs and streams, the sea. The different centers of human life, both public and private, all had their cults, as we have just seen. The house and hearth of the king were especially sanctified and were succeeded by important temples, and the Prytaneion with the public hearth. The reputed graves of heroes and founders were hero shrines. And so were the graves of many historical great men and patriots. Battles and other historical events originated many cults. Sometimes when a new cult was being introduced, a place where it had to be chosen quite arbitrarily, and practical convenience and aesthetic considerations decided the matter instead of tradition. So the place again was littered not just with cults and shrines, sacred spots to the gods, but to heroes and patriotic men as well.
Right.
I was talking recently to someone who was interested in going to Greece for the first time. Can't remember right now who this person was, and they said, I got to go to Thermopylae. I said, well, Thermopylae is a nice site, but there's really nothing to see there.
Right.
It's a good place to stand and contemplate what happened, but it's not a tourist spot. It's a pretty good drive from Athens also.
Yes, right, exactly. It's most people hit it on their way to or from something.
Yeah, like Thessaloniki.
Yeah.
If you're going up the coast on the way there.
Right. But I mean, if you are a hardcore into kind of ancient military history and
like
such,
you and me,
it's a great place to stop. Speaking of shrines, I mean, standing there on the Kolonos Hill, the hill of the last stand.
Yes.
And there's the plaque with Simonides'
right.
His epitaph.
Say stranger.
It's quite moving.
It is very moving. I wasn't saying it wasn't moving.
Okay.
I just said there's nothing to see.
You're
there,
basically saying
really.
you were kind of saying this guy don't bother.
No. But you may, if you're not really deeply into the event, the location is anticlimactic.
Yes.
And you would never know, as Thucydides says of Sparta, you would never know something great happened here.
Right. Yes. I think that it dovetails with a lot of what Wycherley is saying, is that nature itself ideally will kind of show you where to put these things. And I think there is something in that Greek aesthetic, is that you let the space be as natural as it can be. I mean, there's no evidence that the Greeks ever built, a huge tower on top of the Kolonos or any kind of massive monument at Thermopylae.
No.
But they still revered the site because of what happened there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other places too.
I think buildings of great height. I think of maybe the Colossus of Rhodes, right?
Yeah.
Which straddled two different points there in the harbor.
Right.
But I guess the idea behind that is it's a feat of great human engineering connecting two disparate points of land,
right,
which otherwise would not come together.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's one of the fundamental differences between a Roman aesthetic and a Greek aesthetic is the Romans had a taste for the monumental, in part because they were more advanced engineers and used materials that allowed them to build bigger and greater, while the Greeks comparatively kind of kept it simple. I'm reminded of the trip that you and I made to Marathon,
right?
Where there is the tumulus is still there,
the reconstructed tumulus, where, where the bones were found.
And at one point there was an Ionic column, parts of which are just now in the museum. But that was it.
Yep.
Right. There was no kind of massive temple.
Right.
That was built to the shades of those who died there.
Yeah, commemorating that unbelievably important event in 490. I think it was September. I don't remember, but changed the course of world history.
Yeah.
And there's just a very modest sort of monument there.
Yeah.
But that's pre-Periclean, right?
Yes.
After you get Pericles, modesty kind of goes out the window.
Especially if you're talking about what you're seeing in and around Athens. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
So moving on to page 110, we're still on the subject of shrines and official buildings. And here Wycherley is describing Pausanias, the famous Greek traveler, who gives us a kind of travelogue of what he saw in Athens. And says Wycherley, Pausanias saw famous paintings in the shrines too. For example, in the Theseum at Athens, and on the screens enclosing the throne of Zeus at Olympia. You've been there, Jeff, right? We've seen the workshop of Phidias at Olympia, and also the lovely Doric temple. Painting, too, says Wycherley, was related to architecture, though not so obviously or closely. The walls of certain stoas were decorated with great pictures, as we shall see. Most famous of all was the Lescae, the lounge or club room, of the Cnidians at Delphi, a rectangular building with a door in the middle of one long side, on whose walls Polygnotus painted his masterpieces, The Fall of Troy and Odysseus in the Underworld. Of course, decorative architectural detail was picked out in color, but this is a different matter. So it's a commonly known thing, maybe listeners have heard us even talk about it before, that the Parthenon itself was decorated in primary colors.
Yes.
You can see this very clearly in the museums of Athens and also in the British Museum. The red, white, and blue, bright, almost garish primary colors, that decorate certain portions of the Parthenon.
Yes, students who are new to it, it often shocks them because we're so used to seeing these through a neoclassical lens.
Yes,
where it's just the monochromatic, bright
cinematic.
White. Yes, exactly. But yeah, it was. But I think by modern taste, it would look very garish. It would look very like Miami Art Deco.
Yes,
bright colors that
Crockett and Tubbs driving through the. You don't get the reference?
Oh, Miami Vice, of course. Right, in their
You're the TV guy,
in their Ferraris or whatever. Right.
Don Johnson and
Philip Michael Thomas.
Oh wow,
that's Tubbs.
Okay,
yeah, there you go.
Cruising through the Parthenon with their bright colors.
Right, but it's interesting that you just read about painters commemorating these things too.
Right.
On the north edge of the Athenian agora, which is sadly
that's right.
It's kind of in the middle of the buildings and where the train now runs.
That's right.
There was the painted stoa.
The stoa Wycherley. That's right.
Where there, Pausanias tells us there were depictions, I think, of the Battle of Marathon.
That's right.
Painted on the walls.
Right, and that's the birthplace of Stoicism.
Yes.
Right there, where Zeno was in
exactly
330s, something like that.
Exactly.
So on the opposite page, he finally gets down to talk a little bit about the temple.
Yes.
And I think that listeners will find this surprising. If we have, I think we have many religious listeners, and if they go to a temple or they go to church or something like that, perhaps even mosque, they see those buildings as centers of worship.
Right.
But that is not what a Greek temple is.
No.
Can you read that portion where Wycherley describes some of the function?
Sure. Wycherley writes, the Greek temple was a house, the house of a god, or at least it represented the main hall of a house. It was the expression of an essentially anthropomorphic religion, and the desire to provide an appropriate setting for a cult statue was an important factor in determining its form. The temple was not intended to house large gatherings of worshippers. The open shrine outside was used for this purpose, though for certain cults a special hall was provided, such as the Telesterion or Hall of Mysteries at Eleusis, built on quite a different principle from the temple. The theater, too, was a specialized form of meeting place for a large congregation.
That's fascinating.
Yes. I mean, there's that. We've talked a bit about the mysteries in Mithras.
Right, sure.
And one of the fundamental differences is the mysteries kind of invite you in, right? Where you commune with the god in a much more directly. But in your typical kind of public Greek religion, the temple was for the god or the goddess. And
he or she lived there.
Right.
And you typically didn't go in.
Right.
Other than to quickly glimpse at, maybe nod toward, I don't know, look upon the statue that represented the spiritual presence of the deity.
Right.
But then all kinds of prayer and sacrifice, any kind of transaction with the divine took place outside the temple.
Exactly.
Which is entirely different from what I know of any kind of religious activity today.
Right. I mean, I know there's some question who was actually allowed in the Parthenon. We don't really know. I mean, we know things like at the end of the Panathenaic festival, they would bring the new tapestry that was woven for Athena, either drape it on the statue or display it there. My sense is that it didn't perhaps go as far as the Temple of Solomon, where only the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies one day out of the year.
Right, but lots of people went into other parts of the Jewish temples at all different kinds of times.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of that very example. You're right. A portion of it, the Holy of Holies, was highly restricted.
Right.
Both in space and time. But there was the outer court of the Gentiles, then there was an inner court, and so there's a lot of activity taking place there.
Yeah.
So much that in the Gospels, of course, Christ had to say, there's too much going on. Let's clear some of this out.
Exactly.
It's lost its reverence.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, imagine too, on the Acropolis, outside the Parthenon, you have altars, you have lots of open space, which must have been used for, in a similar broadly speaking, kind of way, sacrifice done on behalf of the people, in front of the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you say it's a question of who can get into the Parthenon.
Yeah.
Ken Bratt can.
What?
He was doing his year of study, his sabbatical in Athens. He was allowed into the Parthenon.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not kidding.
I never heard that story.
Oh, yes. It's the ultimate flex.
That is the ultimate flex, yeah.
I've never been inside the Parthenon. Have you?
No, hardly anybody has been since the middle of the 1970s.
You've never visited the moon? Are you kidding me?
Right. Well, you haven't been.
Right. Yeah, he has.
Yeah.
So what's the structure of one of these temples, how the Greeks built cities? It's that same page.
Yeah. Why don't you pick it up there, Dave?
All right. Wycherley says the basic form of the temple was an oblong building with the entrance at one end. This is the so-called megaron form, which, brought down originally from the north in pre-Hellenic times, recurred in age after age in Greece. and of which more will be said in dealing with the house, that is, where people dwell. It normally had an open entrance porch or occasionally an antechamber, though some early temples were plain rectangles. Sometimes there was a small room at the rear which formed an inner sanctum. The entrance porch, the depth of which varied greatly, was usually adorned with columns, either between forward continuations of the side walls, in ontis, or in the front, prostyle. A similar porch might be added at the rear for the sake of symmetry, not normally giving entrance to the building. So that's the opisthodomos, right, at the back end, which I guess is the, it would be the east end of the Parthenon, if memory serves. The west end. The west end faces the Propylaea, right?
Yes.
But that's the opisthodomos. It's closed off.
Right, exactly.
The entrance is on the east end,
side.
facing the sun.
Right, as most Greek temples
Right, so you could walk in through there and see the great statue of Athena sculpted by Phidias.
Yeah, it's a bit misleading when you walk up on the Acropolis. You expect kind of you're going to meet...
Right.
You're looking at the front door of the Parthenon, but it's actually the back of it.
It's like the restrooms in the gift shop.
Right. Yeah. Dave, I think in the interest of time, we should probably move along, don't you think?
I suppose.
Yeah, you got anything else you want to kind of close out with this section?
Just what Wycherley says here. This is page 113 in my edition. He says, quote, "In all its essentials, including the outer colonnade, the temple may be regarded as a Greek product, owing nothing to foreign importations. We can see it growing from the crudest beginnings. To Egyptian and Oriental influence, it owed merely decorative detail, so acanthus leaves, maybe, things like that.
Yeah.
And a tendency towards greater elaboration and magnificence, and to some extent, the replacement of wood and clay by stone." So Wycherley is saying these are the very few but insignificant ways in which the Greeks borrowed some aspects from older ancient Near East cultures.
Right.
He says this is not the place to speak of the origin of details of the orders, the Doric, Ionic, etc., though I believe that Doric at least was almost wholly native. But in the colossal Ionic temples of the 6th century, the multiplication of columns, including the duplication of the outer colonnade and the general elaboration, show some foreign influence. So, the Greeks are such incredibly proud people.
Yes.
Even in the past, especially in the past. They like to think of themselves as autochthonous.
Yes.
We didn't migrate. We just sprung from the
soil.
Earth. Right. So I guess in this one respect, they are completely innovative in the temple form.
Yeah. Incredible.
Whether that's an accomplishment, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean this kind of this overarching question of what makes the Greeks unique and special compared to other cultures. This would be something to kind of throw into that basket.
Absolutely.
Yep.
But we have to move on from there, away from shrines and official buildings to the next part.
Yes, we're going to be talking about in this next chapter, gymnasium, the stadium, and the theater.
Yes. Now, in our many athletic themed episodes, like Whoa, Milo, come on, let's go.
That's right.
We've talked about the gymnasium and the stadium a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe we can have just a few comments here in which Wycherley talks about the construction.
Yes. Wycherley writes, every Greek town had its gymnasium. It was one of those elements like the agora without which the polis was incomplete, as Pausanias well knew. Large cities had 2 or more gymnasia. And besides additional palaestrae, Athens, besides her 3 ancient and renowned gymnasia, acquired 4 or 5 others later. Various officials were appointed to supervise the activities of the gymnasia, although the latter were not too formally and elaborately organized in the greatest days. This is not the place to go into details of organization or the scheme of Greek education and its different stages.
Oh, he wants Maru.
He wants Maru.
He wants
exactly.
us to go to Maru.
Right. But one may know that the special care given to them shows the importance of the gymnasia in the life of the city. So yes, in our Maru episodes, we've talked about the centrality of the gymnasia to ancient education through all of its stages.
That's right. Physical education is at the heart of the development of a free citizen.
Right.
Supposedly. And so they're singing the same song there. A little later on in the same chapter, this is page 154, Wycherley says, no doubt there was something unique about Athens in the number and spirit of her gymnasia. One may compare and contrast the Platanistas at Sparta, surrounded by a moat with 2 bridges and ringed with plane trees. Here, as part of the training prescribed by Lycurgus, the young Spartans fought one another ferociously and hurled one another into the water. Nearby was the dromos, or the running track, with 2 gymnasia and shrines of heroes and deities. The Dioscuri, the sons of Zeus, Castor and Pollux, were worshipped here under the title apheterii, or the starters. All this was in the western part of the city. So every Greek city has to have a gymnasium where people, they leave the agora. That's enough arguing about politics and philosophy and the gods and cosmology. Let's go throw some fists.
Throw some fists, right.
And that's in the gymnasium.
Right. And I think also that, I think probably the ancient Greeks saw, kind of comparing it to the agora, just kind of different shades of the same thing. In the agora, you are competing with words, you're competing with ideas, and then let's go do this with our bodies in the gymnasia.
Right. It's go time.
It's go time. It's a bit of a cliche, but I do think that one of the things that made the ancient Greeks so unique was that competitive aspect that bled into kind of almost every aspect of their culture.
It's incredible how agonistic they were.
Yes.
Everything is a competition. Well, we're getting close to the end here. I want to make just one more comment, if I may, about the stadium.
Yeah.
And then we have to talk about Greek houses for a moment before we wrap up.
Yes.
So this is page 162. The word stadion means a unit of distance, about 200 yards. So 2 football fields with several local variations. And it was a race run over this distance and the ground over which the race was run. The 3 meanings are closely bound up together, and it is difficult to show that any one is the primary sense. The stade is about the limit of distance for which a man can run at full speed. The stade race was of great antiquity. It was traditionally the oldest at Olympia, where the greatest national games of Greece were held. To win it was the highest honor, and the victors gave their names to the Olympiads, or the 4-year periods of the games. The stadium was designed primarily for this race. So, first time we're at Olympia, I'm struck by, of course, the history of the place, but by the total lack of comfortable seats or any seats at all.
Right. Yeah.
The entire population just turns out and sits on the grass embankment.
Yeah. It's one of the kind of the ultimate examples of this idea of if nature tells you what to put there.
Exactly.
Right? Wycherley tells us that there's almost no evidence that structured seating was ever added there.
Right. Until Roman times.
But even in Roman times, it was still kept very simple. You have that little stand for the judges.
Right.
That survives to one degree, but basically it's kind of a natural kind of bowl in the earth, which they formalized, added some drainage ditches, and that's it.
Yep.
You just gather on the hillsides and for the spectators. Yeah.
So it kind of reminds me of that famous Impressionist painting. Is it Seurat?
Seurat, yes. In the one in the Art Institute in Chicago.
Is that where it is?
Yes, featured in Ferris Bueller.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So it's the Georges Seurat painting where the ladies and the men are coming down to the riverside with their parasols and their little doggies and so forth.
Exactly, just hanging out.
Yeah, you like that painting?
Not especially.
Why not?
I'm not. Impressionism isn't my favorite. Isn't my favorite era of art. I mean, it's impressive, but I would say
never get a second chance, right?
to
enjoy Impressionism.
That's right.
I kind of like it, but I like the painting. I like the colors. I had a friend who once said, if you squint, everything's an Impressionist painting. But what I think would make it much better is if in the middle of that scene, you have a couple guys sprinting, right?
Naked?
Well, that's fine. Okay. But the idea is they're trying to win, right?
Right.
Let's add a competitive element.
Yes.
Or maybe 2 of these ladies are fencing with umbrellas or something.
Now you're selling me the painting.
Okay.
There's no crewing or rowing that people are watching in there. They're just kind of hanging.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You're the guy who's from Chicago.
I know, but
there do seem to be some rowers out on the water.
Maybe that's what they're watching. There is some competition. Yeah,
I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, we have to move on then from the stadium and deal a little bit with Greek houses.
Greek houses, yes.
Because this is a little covered aspect of antiquity that perhaps our listeners will find very interesting.
Yes. Now, in terms of kind of archaeological remains, this is a bit of an anticlimax.
You're right.
Because there's not a ton of remains out there to look at. I mean, I was comparatively with Rome or Italy.
Right.
If you go to Ostia Antica, there are remnants of those insulae, those apartment buildings.
Pompeii, Herculaneum.
A lot more there. But for the Greek house,
all those places,
there's not a ton. Wycherley talks a lot about Olympus, where you have these massive city blocks survive, but they survive down to their foundations, and that's about it.
Well, there's a reason for this, and I just remember the other place. It's Oplontis, right? Oplontis is the other place around the Bay of Naples there.
Yes.
And the villa that belonged to one of Nero's ladies, if I'm remembering correctly, is the Villa Oplontis. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yep.
There's a reason for that, and that is because Wycherley has limited his investigation, we remember, to the classical period,
Yes.
right? It's basically 5th century, and he doesn't go past that. So the kinds of villi that we see at Pompeii and other places are Hellenistic in origin. So the massive estate, right, which functions almost like a Minoan home, right? It's got all this business and activity going on within it, and it's removed from the city. You retreat into the cool interior of your Hellenistic villa.
Right.
That's much later than all of this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I thought an interesting point that Wycherley made is that if you look at the layout of a typical Greek house,
Right.
much infinitely smaller than a Roman villa.
Of course.
It's almost like a mini polis in of itself. It's kind of it's gathered. It's centered around an open spot. It's like each house has its own little agora.
Right.
And the houses were comparatively small, even for kind of wealthy and connected individuals.
Correct.
They had
Because
small
all
houses.
activity was public.
Was public. It was outside, right?
Yeah.
And when you have weather as nice as you have it in Greece most of the year,
Right.
there's not a lot of reason to spend it.
That's right.
On the computer in the man cave.
That's a good point.
Yes, right,
You're not watching reruns of Seinfeld or something
right.
downstairs with your bag of huggable portions.
That's exactly right.
You're outside enjoying life.
Right, especially if you're a guy,
Mhm.
right? And so we know that the Greek house was divided up along the lines of gender. That the upstairs quarters generally belonged to the women. That's where they would be taking care of the children, and if they were working, they were kind of engaged in kind of working the loom.
Right.
And the downstairs
Home
area
crafts.
was mostly dedicated to male quarters.
Right.
Bedrooms, dining rooms, and maybe a place, if you were wealthy enough, you had a room to gather with your friends for
Maybe some billiards.
some billiards.
What's that mini billiard called? Snook or
A snooker?
snooker?
I think that's right.
Sounds made up.
I've never played snooker.
No, I haven't either.
But I mean, if you wanted to get a throwdown of racco
Okay.
with your neighbors, there'd be a space dedicated to that.
Okay, so page 190. A brief account of the form of the Greek house will help to explain why it could make little positive contribution to the city's architectural scheme. That is anticlimactic.
It is. He should have front loaded the book.
Yeah,
Right.
well, says Wycherley, at all times there must have been many houses consisting of very few rooms, perhaps one or two, without any distinctive plan or any architectural adornment. Houses of more ambitious form were always built around a small courtyard and looked inwards toward this rather than outwards towards the streets and their neighbors. Each was self-contained and turned in on itself. The entrance was inconspicuous, and the windows usually placed high. Most of the rooms opened onto the courtyard. In certain types, there was one dominant room, which gave the impression of being the nucleus of the whole, and the other rooms in the courtyard itself appeared as appendages. In other types, this emphasis was absent.
Yeah.
So, very unimpressive,
Right.
very simple. No architectural interest, no columns, no peristyle, none of the fantastic things that you think about Hellenistic homes that the Romans adopted and that you would see in movies like Ben-Hur.
Right.
Didn't have that kind of thing.
Right. And so if you are, how are you going to impress your neighbors? Or if you want to be the Joneses that everybody's trying to keep up with, you're going to do it in different ways. It's going
Right.
to be your eloquence in the agora. It's going to be your
Burial monuments.
burial. There you go. Burial.
Isn't that
monument.
interesting?
Yes, that's how you kind of you mark kind of who's who.
When was the last time you were invited to, other than here, in the bunker of the vomitorium here, when you were invited to a fabulous villa, right? And you were, feted and dined by the owner, and you thought, wow, this is a really impressive home.
Yeah. I mean,
Has that happened recently?
I wouldn't say a fabulous villa,
Okay.
but I have been invited to dinner parties. And,
Right,
and
nice places.
Very nice places, and thought it was kind of very well done and impressive.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have some friends that live in an adjacent state. The very nice home, a full home theater in the basement, which is exciting for kids.
Yes.
A place to have adult beverages and watch television. That's nice, but I have never been invited by someone to say, I want you to come out and see the funerary monument that I built for my ancestors.
Right.
And that's impressive, and all the money and effort goes into that.
Yeah.
When you first visit the Architectural Museum in Athens, I think you're overwhelmed by the amount of effort that went into burials.
Yes.
But the homes, as Wycherley says, complete afterthought.
Yeah. I like one of the things I like to do is I find cemeteries fascinating and walking through them. I think that notion of impressing the public with a grand monument.
Yes.
That went on for quite some time. I mean, a lot of these monuments to these wealthy families, even here in Grand Rapids, going back to the 19th century, are incredible.
Yes.
Right.
And not to make not trying to pun on this, but quite seriously, is that sort of thing dying out?
I think it is. I don't see that, certainly not that much, but all of those monuments that I've seen date back at least 100 years, right?
People just don't put any effort into that so much anymore.
Right. A few summers ago, I was with my family on a road trip, and we stopped in Springfield, Illinois, and we visited Lincoln's tomb there. And I mean, that is an incredible mausoleum.
Is this the one with the sculpture of him coming out of the earth?
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds kind of creepy.
Well, he's kind of earth-sprung, right? He's coming just out of the soil, so it's a statue of him that's partially submerged.
Okay, if it's there, I missed it. Yeah.
It's not meant to be gruesome, but I understand it shows he's really autochthonous.
Ah, yeah, right,
in his political career.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I do think that kind of thing is dying out. But yeah, I think you're right. That's one of the main ways in which the ancient Greeks distinguished themselves and kind of established a kind of family hierarchy by the kind of monument you left behind for the dead. Yep.
I have one more comment on the Greek house, and then we'll have a brief comment on the fountain. So this is page 207. He says, one can only repeat that the Greek house, when it attained any distinctive plan at all, was built around an interior court. It looked in on this, and it turned mainly southwards. Those are the broadest brushstrokes, aren't they?
Yeah.
Endless variations on this scheme were possible. The arrangement of rooms was generally informal and free from strict symmetry. So you walk into a Greek home and you say, you put the main bathroom there behind the kitchen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, right.
You put the main bedroom in the entryway, and then you have to go all the way to the back of the house to take off your shoes. It was informal and kind of ad hoc.
It is. And it reminds me of this. I mean, you take that basic plan, take it all the way back to Knossos and the palace there. Of course, it's a much grander scale, but it's basically the same idea.
Yeah.
Kind of a haphazard arrangement around a center open courtyard.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make two kind of programmatic statements if I could, and I don't know if they'll stand, but I'm thinking after reviewing this evidence that the reasons for that are that first, it's an entirely outdoor and public kind of existence. Your entire worth and significance are determined by your peers, by the public.
Yes.
So what happens in the home is really not that interesting.
Right.
And secondly, it's only possible in the kind of climate that the Greeks enjoy.
Indeed.
Could we do that here in West Michigan with our brutal winters?
No way.
No, you come inside and you try to recreate a nice space sheltered from the elements.
Right.
It's a very different impulse.
Yeah. I mean, I would add kind of one thing to that is one of the things that my wife and I have noticed is that we live in an older neighborhood in Grand Rapids where
a little upper crusty hoity-toity.
I wouldn't say that,
yeah, but I would.
Okay, well, fine, we can talk about it later. But the houses are oriented. The defining feature that when you walk, it's the porch, right? You're there to sit outside. You're there to kind of interact with your neighbors. Where in a lot of most newer neighborhoods, what's front loaded is the garage.
Oh
right?
yeah,
it's the house for the car,
right?
And there's nothing really about the house that says that pushes you outside into the community. So, yeah.
But on the other hand, those houses where you live, they're kind of close together, and there aren't too many windows in between the homes, right? They tend to avoid, so the side of your house that faces the neighbor's house, there aren't a lot of windows on that
there's
side.
There's actually a lot of windows.
Are there really?
Yes, there's too many windows.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially too many windows in my neighbor's house.
Oh, I see. All right. So let's talk about Greek fountains, and then we'll wrap this up. And this is on page 219 in my text.
Okay. Wycherley writes, Greek fountains are almost devoid of fanciful ornament. Apart from the normal architectural forms, decoration is almost confined to the spouts. Often, of course, there would be statues nearby, particularly of the appropriate deities, and as always, these were meant to be seen in relation to their architectural setting. So yeah, here too, I think when people in the popular imagination, when they think kind of an ancient fountain, they're thinking of something like the Trevi Fountain, right? And some of those Roman fountains were extremely ornate.
Right, the baths of Caracalla, or the baths of Diocletian.
Yes, or even the the Nymphaeum that Herodes Atticus put in at Olympia,
Right?
That kind of semicircular thing. But a Greek fountain was, again, the function was more important than
Correct.
form. Yeah.
The function being to provide fresh water.
Yes.
From some kind of an aqueduct. I was surprised to hear that Wycherley uses the term aqueduct with respect to Greek cities.
Yeah.
Even, I don't think he's wrong in that, obviously, but even before the Hellenistic times. So the Greeks had not as capable or developed system as the Romans for bringing fresh water from a distance.
Yes.
But they had something.
Right.
And that mainly is the point, is to get some fresh water into the city. We see this, is it in Thucydides, where he talks about during the plague, 430, 429, people were plunging themselves into the fountains and pools of Athens to quench their thirst, and thereby further polluting it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So, I hear too again. Wycherley kind of, I think, ends on kind of a anticlimactic note.
Yeah, but we've done the hard work for the listener. They don't have to read the whole book now.
That's true. But he wraps it up with the fountain houses, and for the Greeks, it was simple, it was unadorned, and it played a very essential function for the ancient polis. But we're not talking about the Parthenon here.
How do you feel about public water supply?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay. I mean, when you go to a sporting event or a concert venue or something like that, I know those aren't public, but some of them are kind of sponsored by municipalities.
Oh yeah.
Are you the kind of guy who buys the 20-ounce soda for $13.99, or do you take your own water bottle and fill it up at the free spot?
That's I'm choice B.
Your choice B.
Yes, exactly. I can't. Yeah, the
can't bring yourself.
The concession prices are criminal.
Outrageous.
Outrageous. Yes.
That's right. Well, Jeff, that's just about a wrap, and we have to get out of here because of a NewPap.
NewPap? Who are these guys?
NewPap?
Oh, are you talking about the National Union to Prevent Amateur Podcasting?
Yes, NewPap.
These guys again?
Yes.
Right?
We heard from them back on January 9, 2024.
Yes.
The episode that we had with Caroline Lawrence, the wonderful British author of children's books.
That's right.
Remember that?
Are these guys still upset that we're not a professional enough?
Very upset. So NewPap is beating on the door. They want to revoke our license, force us to drink from public fountains and so forth. So we better vacate the premises.
Let's make our way through the Epistodomus. Right?
That's right.
That's right. Yes, we got to get out of here. But before we do, Dave, I'm sure many of our listeners would love to learn some Greek. They would love to learn some Latin. You can help them. How can they do that?
Yeah, well, lately, when we've been working off these books, right, like Mahru and Richard and now Wycherley, we haven't been reading a lot of Latin or Greek.
That's true.
We need to get back to that pretty soon. If you want to study some Latin and or Greek, please go to latinperdiem.com and check out the things I have to offer. I have these $99 master classes where you can consume instruction by watching others as I'm teaching, much less pressure, much less stress, at your own sort of rate and your own schedule. The Danish physicist Niels Bohr, you know Niels, right?
Oh yeah, Niels.
He once said that, quote, an expert is a man who has made all the mistakes which can be made in a narrow field. And I am that man. I have been making mistakes for so long, and since I've made nearly all of them now, I think I have some expertise, and that expertise will guide you into a deep, rich, and satisfying knowledge of ancient Greek or Latin.
Fantastic.
So go to latinperdiem.com. You can enter this coupon code 10plus, 10PLUS, get you 10% off anything on the site. We're going to have a class coming up on Thursday evenings, beginning in September, reading the satires of one Juvenal, the Roman satirist. So if you want to learn how to make fun of people in a very pointed and moral way, you can join me on Thursday evenings to study Juvenal's satire. Check out my website. There'll be information about it. This will be via Zoom.
Fantastic.
Jeff, we got to thank some people.
As always, big thanks to Mishka, our wonderful engineer, who makes us sound so good week after week. It's always a big thanks to her. Also, Jeff Sheets, this wonderful musician. It's his Thrill Seeker that you hear as the intro and outro music. Thanks to Ken Tamplin, as always, who's been with us for a long time.
That's right.
For the bumper music.
Yes, on the commercials. And if you want to subscribe or leave a review, you can do that on Spotify or on Podbean or on Apple iTunes, one of those places. Tell us what you like about the show. Send us an email. You can write to jeff@adnauseam.com. Do not forget the V.
And you can write to dave@adnauseam.com. Again, don't forget that V.
Lurch with merch. Go to our section on the website, pick up a Quai Nokent Dokent t-shirt or an Ad Nauseam hat. Show people that you are taking in the classics.
And keeping them down.
What is on the menu for next week, Winkle?
We're finally, after almost 5 years, getting around to some Play-Doh.
Yes.
Which shocks even me.
Really?
It's taken us this long to get some Play-Doh.
We're going to have to make some apologies of our own before we get to the Apology of Socrates Part 1.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Should be very fun. And I believe, Dr. Winkle, you have the GPS this week, the gustatory parting shot.
I do. This comes from one Paul Rudnick in his book.
Who is Paul Rudnick?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Right? But he wrote a book called I Shudder and Other Reactions to Life, Death in New Jersey.
I like the title.
Right? In which he gives us this quote. I believe in a benevolent God, not because he created the Grand Canyon or Michelangelo, but because he gave us snacks.
Nice. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.